Yeah, I saw the power of doing that.
Yeah. I think like
it gets you, it's like an adrenaline rush. So then I started doing that on a mass scale.
Over 80% of the people around don't enjoy their work.
Get a good education, stable job, and raise a family.
I slept on a futon until I was 36. I don't fucking regret any of it.
I just want to have some type of impact, no matter what it was.
La la la. Welcome to 99 Career Options podcast session number 5. Today we are talking with a dear friend of mine, Vlad Tapia. Vlad is an SAP Architect from Toronto and he worked on SAP projects in 15 countries. He also visited 75 countries because of the mobility that SAP employment brings. He is a rainmaker, he loves food and fitness, and enjoys meeting new people with new perspectives. Amazing guy. Let's go and chat with him. Remember that all links and resources are in the show notes at 99careeroptions.com/session number. And you can say hi on Twitter and Facebook using the same name. So Vlad, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Can you please tell the listeners, like, what do you do, your job descriptions, and how did you get there? Like your education and maybe courses that you take or...
Yeah, okay. So job description, SAP Solution Architect at Every. What that means is that as a solution architect, you could look at it as a kind of technical project manager for an IT implementation. So when you have a project and you're building something, you're building a building, you'll have the lead designers of this building. Okay, this building's going to look like this. It's going to be engineered with these materials and so forth. SAP Solution Architect's the same thing, but for a solution, an SAP solution instead of a physical building. Be the lead designer of how this thing needs to look like from a high level. How I got there? Well, you usually start as an SAP consultant analyst, and that company needs to pick you up.
Okay.
So when companies pick you up, like at a university, I got picked up by IBM.
What did you study?
I studied engineering and business at Western University in Canada. It's the third biggest university and also considered the third best academic university in Canada.
Yeah.
And what happened is that the guy that was running the IBM SAP practice went to Western and he wanted primarily people from Western to recruit.
Okay.
So IBM was biased towards my university. So that's the main reason he went to our school.
So pretty much you studied SAP after school. Right?
After school, yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. Almost nobody studies it before. In Canada, we only have one university that teaches you anything about SAP before.
Oh, interesting, yeah.
Yeah. So once we went there, the way it works is that we did a 5-week training program through SAP.
Yeah.
It's called Academy.
Yeah.
And then you have to pass an exam. And after that, you're considered a certified SAP consultant. Yeah. It's a very hard exam. The pass rate's about high 20s.
Right.
So the people that write it, only high 20, like 28, 27% of people pass this exam.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So high failure rate. It's an expensive exam too. So each time you write it, you have to pay all this money again.
Yeah.
It'd be equivalent to about, back then it was about 800 to 1,000 euros to write the exam each time. Okay. And you're only allowed to write it 3 times in your life. So if you fail 3 times, you're never allowed to write it again.
Okay.
Now they've changed it structured. So now they have 3 levels of exam. They have the easiest, middle, and harder. Back then, you only had the harder one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next thing, once you pass the exam, what happens is that you are certified to show that you understand how the software is built, how it works, and how it's kind of used, but you have no experience with it.
Right.
It's kind of like passing a course on how to fix a car. Like, you know all the details of it, but you just never gone in there and fixed the car.
Right.
But you learn all the academia.
Yeah.
So now you have to actually be put on a project and start working. So what IBM did, when they brought me in, they were bringing in people with engineering backgrounds. So I did engineering and business.
Yeah.
And the reason being is because a lot of the clients, like the IT managers for these clients, would come from engineering backgrounds.
Okay.
So they wanted to speak to engineers.
Yeah.
So they have the same technical language.
Yeah.
So that was the main reason IBM recruited so much of that. Once they brought us in, they put me first on a military project. They had a really big military project in Ottawa. And this was a very nice experience because what happened, Ottawa, Canada. Canada was the first one to put SAP in military in a successful manner.
Okay.
Once Canada finished this, what happened? Everybody from that group ended up going worldwide to work somewhere else. Some people went to Israel, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, some went to Australia, Netherlands, Denmark. All these countries got the exact same SAP military solution. Yeah. And IBM sold it to all of them. So then we were the first pioneers. So then they sent us worldwide around this. And what happened is that this solution was so successful is that we made a actually by coincidence, I wrote this presentation and I got to present at SAP Sapphire, which is like you kind of say the Grammys of the SAP every year. So in 2010, the Grammys had our presentation from our project. And, what happened? Colin Powell went to watch this because even Colin Powell, retired, Ministry of Defense for the U.S., when it was interested to see how you could use IT more to run military more successful. Okay. So that's how that project got me really going international with it. From IBM, what happened is that once I finished this project and I had about 3 years experience with military, SAP implementations, I started doing other industries. I did food industry. And then eventually I got recruited by a company called Accenture. Yep. And then Accenture, because I had this good project under my belt, sent me around worldwide. They sent me to Central America, UK, Switzerland, Brazil. We went to all these countries to work on different projects. And it was mainly with a company called Exxon, which is a big oil company. Yeah. And we were doing mergers and acquisitions. Yeah. And what happens, why is SAP so important for mergers and acquisitions? Is because when you do a sell of one company to another company, you list in the contract all the things that are being sold. Yeah. And intellectual property is a big part of it. Yeah. Because yes, you're selling a physical building, but you're selling the business. You're selling all the intelligence behind it. Mm. And what happens, all the intellectual property is delivered usually in an ERP system like SAP. So when they signed the contract between this company from UK called Trafigura and Exxon to sell these assets from Central America, depending on what intellectual capital the Exxon was going to give Trafigura, it was going to be a different cost. Okay. You get it? So then I had to be part of this project to advise both people on what they need. Yeah. What is the best? What is the most optimal amount of knowledge? Because if you give everything, you're paying too much money for something maybe you don't need. Yeah. And if you don't get enough, then when you start your business, you're a bit stranded because you don't have enough information to run the business. Got it. So that was very interesting. The way that experience worked is that I went first to Texas, Houston, Texas, to the trading floor of Exxon. In Trafigura, I went to 2 trading floors to learn how they trade oil. Okay. Then I went to the UK, London, to see the trading floor between the 2 companies again. Yeah. And it was incredible, the difference between a trading floor between USA and UK. It was quite different. Okay. Very, very, first of all, in the US, when you go to a trading floor, there's a lot of people that are like running around, screaming, just like you watch in the movies. Right. Right? Yeah. There's a lot of computers and a lot of people like on the phone nonstop. Yeah. UK, there's nobody speaking. It's just computers. It's just a series of computers all laid out there in this massive floor of computers. And then, what's funny is that all these people are at the sides. Yeah. And then what happens when they ever in the report show something's going wrong with the trading, they run to the computer and fix something in it. Okay, got it. So there's people going up and down these rows of computers, like fixing looking at them. Yeah, fixing something in the software, something being adjusting, fine tuning some things.
Got it. Just to step back a bit, like, did you choose this SAP career path, or was it like?
Oh, the reason it happened, I had 2 options coming out of university. One was I worked as an engineer in the utilities industry for a short time before I graduated, and then after I graduated for a little bit as well. Yep. And then it was either to work in utilities industry as a market analyst.
So after you finished the bachelor in electrical engineering?
Yes. And business. And then the other option was SAP consultant. Yeah. At the time, I liked utilities more, but I knew utilities industry, you're stuck working only in where you learn. Like, let's say we're maybe Ontario, Canada. Right. And to go to another province or state or country, it took a lot of work because you need to be a subject matter expert. Otherwise, they label you that you only know electricity business in this part of Canada. That's it. Oh, okay, you can't do electricity business in Florida or Texas. Yeah. So that's how they had the mindset. And I go, okay, that's not nice. I wanted to see the world. I want to travel. So IBM said, SAP consulting, you could work worldwide.
That's awesome.
So that's what convinced me to take that career path.
That's fantastic. But if we go actually non-chronological, chronological but backwards, why did you apply for a bachelor in electrical engineering?
Oh, okay.
First time?
Oh, yeah. I was good at math. I was good at science.
How old were you?
Oh, okay. When I came out of when I was in high school, I was very good at math. I got the math award in my high school, and I got in Canada. We rank them, the top students. I got 6th in Canada in my last year of high school, so I was ranked the 6th best mathematician in Canada.
Wow! Congrats.
So then, yeah, thank you. So then, come out of high school, either I was gonna do computer science or engineering was the most prominent degrees.
Right.
But I decided to do business my first year. I did 1 year of business. I go, okay, this is not for me, not because I don't like business, because I felt what I'm good at, I didn't get to show off.
Yeah.
And then you kind of want to do what you're good at.
Yeah,
so then I decided to change it the second year to engineering.
Yeah.
And since I already had 1 year of business, I was able to leverage that to get a second degree with business.
Okay, got it.
Because I already did 1 year of business. And then all my electives in engineering were business electives, just so I could have both degrees at the end.
Okay. Huh.
That's why I changed it, because once you're an engineer, everything was math-based, science-based. I go, okay, this is what I was good at in high school.
Yeah.
Now I could kind of do something I feel I'm the best, like better at, as opposed to courses that didn't bring that out. And like in marketing, I didn't understand those concepts.
Yes, I guess there are a lot of people out there that just choose a major just because it sounds good, right?
Yeah.
But they don't do something that they think they leverage their skills, like you did, right? Or I'm really passionate about it, right? Like I know that math is something that I like doing, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's really bad. I think people should figure out what they like, and they shouldn't be afraid to change paths, right? Like if they figure out that, oh, this is not what I like, actually, they should do something else.
Actually, one thing I want to add to this was that coming out of high school, I didn't know what you could actually do with math. Like, I heard you could do computer science, engineering, but I didn't really know what that meant.
Exactly.
So one thing I forgot to mention actually is that I did a year of business, and then actually in between my engineering business, I took a year where I went to this university in Canada called Ryerson, where you could just try courses.
Wow, yeah.
You didn't need to be actually enrolled.
Awesome.
We have this option in Canada.
That's the way to do it.
And I was working in cancer research. My mom helped me get this job in cancer research. And during this year, I took courses in everything. I even took psychology. I took philosophy. I took computer science, engineering. All these degrees, all these different courses.
Just figure out what you like.
Yeah. And then you also, the people taking those courses with you are your peers. So then you kind of see where you found the people you like the most.
Yeah.
It's not just the course material, but the people in the class that you got along with the most, that you felt had common interests.
Yeah.
And I noticed in the engineering courses and computer science is where I found the most. So from there, I decided to, okay, I'm doing engineering. Let's just go back now to the same university and do the engineering degree.
Yeah.
And much more successful, and I liked it more, better friends.
Yeah.
And then one thing, when you're in high school, university in Canada, US, there's a concept called internship.
Yeah.
So you're allowed to work internship every summer in between your degree. And then in Canada, it's highly recommended that your very last year of university, you take a whole year off and you work for 16 months. And you actually work as a certified engineer.
Okay.
So I did that. You had to apply for it in your third year. You had to have good enough grades. You need to pass all these kind of tests through the Board of Engineers of Ontario, the province I was in.
But was it someone that would advise you what to do? Because it just looks that you took exactly the right steps. Was it someone that would tell you? Or you were really curious, like, oh, what should I do? Like you were really hungry to take the most out of it.
Yeah, basically the engineers in the class ahead of me, they were our mentors.
Oh, so, awesome. Yeah.
What we were seeing is that people graduating from engineering, the ones that were getting jobs were the guys that did this 16 months of work in between.
Got it.
The ones who were not getting jobs, the ones that didn't have that.
Yeah.
And we realized, people in my class realized that this has a lot of value. Not only were they getting jobs after graduation, but they were getting good jobs.
Right.
Like nice jobs that people want, not these random engineering jobs.
Yeah.
So we all knew that was a better option. And also because if you do the 16 months, they pay you less. And also university pushes for you. And there's all these government incentives for the companies to hire these people. So a lot of companies are doing it because they got so many incentives from the government to bring in these students and try them out.
So the demand is high to take internships.
Yeah. When you go for a full-time job in Canada is just like Norway. It's hard to fire people.
Yeah.
So they really do. They're really hesitant to hire someone full-time because it's really difficult to fire someone there.
Right.
So, but internship was easy because they could just get rid of you.
Yeah.
The way the internship works is it could be 4, 8, 16, 12 or 16 months. So I got a 16-month one. Actually, I got 12 with an option of 4, and I didn't take it myself. I went to a different company for the other 4.
Okay.
Same industry, same everything, but I wanted to diversify my experience in the utilities industry.
Yeah, got it.
So I went to our customer.
Just to go back right now, fast forward to your SAP position.
Yeah.
If you would have to, so I guess you can have a SAP position, but it wouldn't matter actually your background, right?
It matters your background.
Okay, so it needs to be technical all the time. No. It can be finance. It can be
anything. I'll explain it to you. Actually, SAP, what SAP is basically, I'll explain it very quickly. Yeah. When you run a business, you have all sorts of business units. You have HR, finance, you have operations, maybe supply chain, inventory.
Yeah.
And what happens, the traditional way of doing business is that you'll have a little software for each one. Yeah. You have an Excel sheet to run your inventory, Excel sheet for your HR records.
Well, I guess. See you later.
Excel sheet to run your finance. And then from there, eventually Excel sheets to low tech. So you upgrade to some sort of random software. Right. SAP is basically one software that's very sophisticated that puts all of them together.
Yeah.
So when you do anything in inventory, it automatically aligns to anything that affects HR or finance or anything that you do in HR or finance or inventory that affects another business unit, it's automatically reflected.
Got it. So all the listeners that are listening right now, it doesn't matter the background.
No, because
it's finance or
it depends on if you do finance, SAP has finance solution.
Right.
I did engineering business, so mine's is called logistics and PLM, product lifecycle management, which is like the engineering side of it.
Okay.
If you're a technical person, computer science, then you're a programmer because it's a software. In the end, some programming is required.
Right.
If you did history major, let's say, or more like people wise, it'd be like HR.
Okay. Wow.
Right. So a lot of the people that do SAP HR came from arts backgrounds.
Yeah. Got it.
So we have all sorts of backgrounds. It's just that you need to have some sort of experience in one business unit, like HR, finance, and so forth.
I understand. What do you like the most about working with SAP, or what do you think as having this position provided you?
Yeah, what I like the most is that usually SAP is a very expensive software, so big companies get it, and most big companies are international. So when you work in SAP implementation, it's worldwide.
Yeah.
You're going to a company like Exxon, you're going to a company like Unilever, you're going to a company like Rio Tinto that they have their operations all over the world. So you work with the headquarters, corporate governance, and then you realize, okay, we build this solution to run all their plants worldwide this way.
Right.
So you get the opportunity to travel.
Right.
You get the opportunity to understand how business works around the world, the different business units. You really have a good grasp of how operations work for a big corporation. That's the best part about it.
Yeah. And also on the other side, what you dislike, or what you think it's a challenge, or
a challenge. As far as a challenge is that when you work on projects as a consultant, you don't get to see the fruits of your labor too much. So you don't learn what kind of mistakes you made in a strategic level. Because when you implement a solution, you see the solution work immediately.
Yeah.
But then you leave the project. Your job is done. You go to another project. And maybe you realize that something you did in 6 to 8 months didn't pan out the way you wanted to.
Okay.
You don't get to see that. So you as a SAP consultant are not considered a true management consultant or a true strategic consultant. Like, nobody will ever hire you for that because they say you don't have experience for that. You don't understand.
But then how do you learn? Like, how do you learn? Because usually you learn from all the mistakes. Like if you're not there to see the mistakes, or they will just, how do you get a feedback?
There's a couple of ways of doing it. One is that, you keep good relations with your clients and you find out what happened, and then somehow through this relation, maybe you could help them here or there in the future. And not only that, they're teaching you of what went right or wrong with what you implemented or what your company implemented. Second option is to work in-house for a company. Yep. So let's say you don't work consulting side, you work for the company that's implementing a software. Yep. And then yes, you're only doing one implementation, but you get to see it for a longer period of time. And then you see what effect that has on the business. Because like I said, the negative thing is that you're not labeled as a true business consultant. You're just labeled as a person that puts a quick fix in and see what happens. You don't know what happens after. And through working with the business, working with a company and seeing how this software affects their operations, you learn the business side. Yeah, you have a broader understanding. Yeah, like you really learn how to how to improve a business with technology, which is very powerful in knowledge. Yeah, that's true. So how would a day at work would look like for you? Oh, day at work? Like 80% of the cases. Yeah, let's say. Okay. So usually what happens, you go to work. Okay. The way it works, projects, is that you have different activities planned, phases planned every few months. Okay. Right. And then every phase you will have different responsibilities. So let's say, okay, the main things are blueprinting and realization and go live. Okay. Right. Blueprinting means that you are kind of conceiving something. You're kind of designing it. Yeah. Realization means you're building it in the software. Right. And testing it. And then go live means that you're going to site and watching people implement it. Right. So when you do the blueprinting, most of your day, what happens is that you have lots of meetings with clients, stakeholders, and other consultants where you are brainstorming how this thing should be built. Yeah. And then you document it on paper. Right. Okay, it needs to look like this. It needs to be able to do this, blah, blah, blah. So that's what you're mainly doing. Yeah. Lots of meetings with people and then documenting it and coming back with answering questions. Then when it's realization, you're spending most of your day, 80% of your day on the SAP software, building it. Okay. Yeah. And then you're testing it where you're like, you run through the scenarios and then you have maybe some customers come and look at what you made. Now you physically are showing it to people. And then you have to do a lot of demonstrations where you actually have people in the room and they see what it looks like. You built something. Yeah. And then the last part, when it's deployment, is where you're actually going to client side. That's where you get to travel. Yeah. That's when you go to the different countries that you implement it. And you're actually on site with these people. So it could be a factory, it could be a corporate office, it could be a pharmacy, and people are using your software. Yeah. And then you see people that have never looked at it all of a sudden using it. It's like, oh, this works, this doesn't work. Like you see it actually running the business. And that one's very stressful because when you do that, 80% of your days you running around fixing it, things really quickly, no time to think. Yeah. You had to worry, you had all your contingency plans before. You have lots of people there, all like every hour having meetings or every 2 hours discussing what's happening now, what needs to be done. So it's that last one is very stressful, but at the same time, it's very rewarding because you are traveling and seeing the thing work. Yeah. Oh, it's so cool. So you can implement the same solution in different places. So if you would design, if the business has the same, I would say 80% of a solution could be implemented everywhere. Doesn't even matter what type of business it is. It could be mining, oil, it could be pharmaceuticals. Per business unit, 80% remains the same. Yeah. And then the 20% that changes is to adjust to the industry or that specific location or business. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. It's quite interesting. What will be your advices for someone maybe some of the listeners want to pursue this type of career? What would be your advices for those persons that want to? So to get into it, now it's a bit changed a little bit. Since 2010, the whole industry has changed a bit. So in order to get in now, you need to have at least 3 years of work experience in a specific business unit. Like you have 3 years experience in HR or as an accountant or as an engineer or in supply chain, something. Once you have those 3 years of experience, you need to somehow have proof that you have some sort of technical savviness. So not only were you working in HR for 3 years, but you were running some software or you're doing something with applications. Yeah, got it. You have some sort of experience. It could be, there's all sorts of softwares. There's like Oracle, there's Microsoft Dynamics, there is SAP. And as long as you have some experience in the business and say, okay, I've worked on some software and I kind of knew what I was doing. I knew how to manipulate it. I'm not scared of breaking things. Yeah. You could then send an open application to a consulting company, or to a company that needs some, you could say, business super users.
Yeah.
If you go through the consulting route, your knowledge of learning SAP is much faster because you can be put on so many projects so quickly, and there's a demand for you to learn this stuff fast and know what you're doing.
Yeah.
If you go through the route of, let's say, Exxon needs an SAP super user, business user, you learn at a slower pace. You're going to be there a longer time, but you learn the business side a little better. So those are the two options.
I want to talk a little bit about a story that you once told me. You told me once about how you got the nickname Rainman.
Rainmaker.
Rainmaker, yeah.
Yeah. So it started when
It will tell a little bit about your drive and your personality and your mindset. And I think that's really important, also when you like in life, I think we should take life proactive. We shouldn't just wait. And I think you do this exceptionally. Yes.
And I'm going to add how that worked in SAP afterwards. So the story of the Rainmaker was when I was in high school, I was not very social. Like I knew a lot of people, but I was kind of a quiet introvert. So then when I went to university, I said, okay, I'm going to do something that makes me very social. And the first thing that came to my mind is to run for school politics. So before I decided to run for school politics, it was the first week of school at university, and nobody knew each other in our residence. And then all the people that are the leaders of the kind of orientation week were trying to get everybody out, and nobody was kind of grouping together to go to these social events. It's kind of initiation week social events.
Yep.
So what I did, I went around my floor in my residence, which I had 100 people. There's 100 people per floor in my residence. And I said hi to everybody, and I actually remembered their names.
Oh, wow,
so then what happened is that when the leaders were trying to get everybody out and nobody was kind of cooperating, I went around person to person. I said, hey, Bob, John, Sarah, Sally. I remembered all their names, and I remember where they're from, and I remembered like what their interests were. Like,
how did you do that?
Because I kept repeating in my head over and over what they told me.
Yeah.
So I kept remembering, and then awesome. I was able to kind of create a little of comfort and trust.
Yeah.
And then I got almost everybody in our floor to go together as one down to this residence event.
Yeah.
And then we were the only floor at all the floors in the residence that kind of went as a group of almost 100 people.
Wow.
The other residences went like 2 or 3 people at a time, and it was like a very slow process to get them all out to these events.
Right.
So during this walk, we had this huge group of almost 100, and we're even carrying a flag from our residence, Essex Hall. And everybody's like, wow, this is incredible that we're doing this. And then initiation week officers were like, wow, this is really impressive. This floor is really cool.
Yeah.
And then my roommate at the time, who ended up becoming a doctor, started calling me Rainmaker.
Yeah.
He goes, nobody knew my name, who this guy was. I remember their names, but they didn't remember my name. And they all started saying Rainmaker. And they all start screaming Rainmaker the whole walk to the events.
Wow.
And then from there, my whole residence, everyone in residence kept calling me Rainmaker.
Right.
And then I applied for school president for first-year students at university. And what happens, all first-year students in Canada live on residence. And then after first year, you don't live on residence. So we have 2 presidents. We have one president for the first-year students.
Yep. And
then we have president to run the administration of the university. Right. So different responsibilities. One actually looks after the students is on campus. The other one looks after the admin of like academia or something.
Right.
And I won that election by a lot. I got 83% of the votes around campus, about almost 10,000 students.
Yeah.
And the way I did this is that I went around making all these posters about rainmakers, and had this group of people from my floor that became my campaign council. And we went around door to door all over the university campus, speaking to people and telling about the Rainmaker.
Well, how did you know how to do that? Because I think it's so ingenious. You were so proactive. You were just creating doors that are not there, right? So people are like, no, open doors. You were just creating the door. Like, okay, I'll just go and say hi to everyone. I will do this. Actually, you created that.
Yeah.
How did you know to do that?
I didn't know. It was actually luck, but I knew that people respect having their names said and people hearing their stories out and remembering about them. I knew that the respect goes a long way in building trust. And I just tried that out that first day at university, and everybody was new. Nobody knew each other.
Oh, yeah.
And from there, I got so much motivation from that little event of us walking 100 people with a flag up and screaming Rainmaker the whole time that I started doing it at a mass scale. Yeah, I saw the power of doing that. Yeah.
I think
It's like an adrenaline rush. So then I started doing that on a mass scale. I started going around the university, and once I became university president, I was known all over the campus. Everybody knew me as Rainmaker.
Right.
So then I ran the sports program at university too, and so forth. And then when I went to work, I was the leader of all the new graduates, and anything that needed some sort of a leader amongst people at work, I was always getting these positions. So it went a long way.
And I also know that you have a lot of extracurricular activities, right? So you volunteered a lot. You were a coach for a football team, right?
Yeah.
So what was your drive, and what did you take back? What did you learn, and what did you give?
Yeah. So the first thing I started with sports. I was big into sports, American football, wrestling. I coach American football and I coach wrestling. And the second thing I wanted to do, not only is just do something with sports and get back to community, but do something innovative.
Right.
So when I coach football, I go, I'm not going to coach like how my coaches coached at all. I'm going to take a very, very different approach.
Right.
And I took such a different approach, a very analytical approach, that all the other coaches in the city of Toronto have never seen it. So when we played the games, we were winning games and not having problems. And the other coaches didn't know how to react to this style of play.
Yeah.
The main thing I did was I did a lot of psychology, where I started watching a lot of videos of my opponents and seeing what patterns they follow when they run their plays.
Right.
And then I go, this coach and these players combined have this type of mindset. They follow these patterns.
Right.
And then what I'll do, I'll teach my players. So instead of being this hard coach where you tell the players run faster or jump higher or work harder, I would say, okay, work to your limits. And then I'll see where you stand. And then I'm going to teach you about your opponents.
Yeah.
And then you guys, along with me, we will work with a plan together.
Yeah.
So when I coach, my players are involved in the plan against the other team.
Right. Yeah.
And at first it was no good because they were shy and they don't know much about football. But then by the end of the year, the players were so motivated and so encouraged that like they were coaches themselves. So we had like an entire team of coaches.
Yeah.
And
it's so smart.
It was very smart. And actually one of my players went on to the NFL, went to the CFL. And for people from Canada to go NFL is very rare. Very few people go to NFL, which is the National Football League in the US.
Yeah.
And then one guy ended up being a coach in my old university, coaching the football team. He's there right now, coaching football team. So a lot of these guys developed to have very intelligent mindsets to the sport. So that was my approach, and it succeeded. And then when I went on after sports, once I went to career, at Accenture, IBM, I said I want to be a leader of any little groups we have, and amongst the young professionals. So I started doing that quite a bit. Leader of young professionals, running social programs. And then when I moved to Norway, I was taking the same idea and developing it more, running social programs. I mean, social events for networking purposes for foreigners here. So,
wow, that's really impressive, actually.
Yeah.
Do you have any resources for the listeners, like any books, movies, or a podcast that they should listen if they want to take this career path?
Yeah, for SAP, what I would recommend is
and also I will put them in the show notes.
Yeah. Okay. What you could do now, easiest way to learn SAP is that you first have to figure out what business module you could succeed in. And that depends, as I told you, you need at least 3 years of experience in either accounting, HR, or engineering.
Right.
So let's say your business module is HR. Right. Then you go on Google, put SAP HR PDF. And what usually happens, the first hit you're going to get is you're going to get SAP's like a shortened version of that in a PDF.
Okay.
Where they teach you SAP HR within 10 to 20 pages, PowerPoint or a PDF.
Okay, got it.
And then once you read that, you have a basic idea of how this is structured.
Okay.
At least you could go through an interview and know what they're going to ask you about. You won't be able to do anything in detail, but you could speak about it for a little bit. And then from there, what you need to do is try to learn a little bit of what these terms mean and associate them to what you've done at work.
Yeah.
And then watch some, go to the next level of PDF where you do SAP HR, and then you put like training. And usually SAP has courses, online courses that you register.
Yeah.
And you can watch short videos. And it's very, very high levels, meant for salespeople. Okay. But then you get the next level of training.
Yeah.
And then from there, you're good enough to just be able to learn it. A consulting company taking a chance on you. You're good enough there. You can't say you know SAP, but at least somebody could teach it to you and you learn it pretty quickly. You don't start from scratch.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what I recommend.
How do you see the future of this type of job?
Oh, this type of job, the future has already have come here. So in 2010, it started changing quite a bit, where they started going a lot of outsourcing to India, Philippines.
Yeah.
And now in 2015, it's a given. Anything that is technical with SAP or IT is done outsourced to other countries. You don't do it here. It's too expensive. Yeah. So the only stuff you do now here, let's say Norway, Canada, or anywhere in the EU, would be the design work.
Okay.
The design work and also the testing it and the deployment of it. So what that is meant, the design work is that you need to speak to the business and understand what the business here in Norway wants. So you need to understand the culture, you need to understand the business, you need to understand the little nuances and dynamics that matter here in Norway or in Spain or whatever country you're in. And then you need to understand the software. You need to understand it good enough that you could then take that design and go to the people in India and tell them how to make this. Because the people in India, Philippines, it's funny. When you deal with them, you think they understand the software, but they don't understand the software. They just know how to kind of like program some stuff or do some stuff, but they actually have very little understanding of what that stuff does in the business sense, right? So you need to be very good at instructing them and then getting them to do the software the way you need it. Yeah. So that's how it works now. That's the future of it now. And the second part of the future is that is to make, it's called the backend. The backend is just like the stuff that the users never see, what's going on back there. Right. Then the front end, which is what your customers will get, is a new feature starting 2015. It's called SAP HANA, SAP Fiori, and this is based on Apple. So what happens now, all these softwares, think of mobile. Everything's going to the phone, mobile, and going through applications. So SAP now has made that all user interfaces look like an Apple, look like an iPhone app, like the way it looks. Wow. And they take in data very quickly. It can be done through the phone, and it's very kind of user-friendly, ergonomic. So there's a lot of value now in you understanding kind of user experience. Yeah. And then the second part is reporting. So reporting is probably the most important thing right now. They call it business intelligence, and it has to be quick reporting. So there's a concept around big data, reports, business intelligence. What the future holds now is that now softwares are being remodeled. So before, if you know anything about programming, I want you to think of programming C, and I want you to think of programming Java. Java is object-oriented. C is just one run-on program. So now, the way to look at it is that now softwares run on databases that are object-oriented. So like you have each database kind of be a Ferrari engine for one type of data. It could be financial data, HR data. And then in the user interface, what it takes is it extracts only the little information that you need from each database in a very quick way. Okay. Yeah. So it has changed a lot. So then you understanding how reports work and databases work goes a long way, because when you make these reports, you need to understand what data you need, because this makes a difference in business. Like an accountant, what does an accountant need to do to help a company improve its financials? Yeah. Like a person in HR, what information they need to do to pick a better employee or make employers happier? Right. What patterns do they need to look at? So you need to understand that and then go into the data and take that out and bring it in a way that the HR person can make the right decisions, or the CEO or the CIO. So those are the things that matter now in SAP. Yeah. Like I said, knowing how to program it has little value now because it's all being done in India. So, yeah.
Well, it was a really pragmatic answer on how you see the future. Hobbies or side things that you think are useful for this career?
Oh, hobbies?
Like singing or... Like I don't know, maybe it's really important to be sharp all the time, or maybe, I don't know, playing chess or psychology or
sharp is good. I would recommend something like Sudoku, because you have to find patterns and see things quick. Like I told you, the main things that matter now are the user experience and the reports. Right. And the way you see the reports is that there's so much data there. Yeah. And the data, if you actually look at it from outside, you start seeing patterns. Yeah. Seeing numbers and patterns. And what happens is that a lot of times when you make the reports, it's based on two things. It's based on the customer telling you, I need this type of information.
Yeah.
And you remembering what you saw in the database and what patterns you saw and go, oh, actually, you can see this in a better way if you do it this way.
Yeah.
So you guys combine, make the best reports.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And then for you to have that sharpness, something like Sudoku makes it really quick at seeing patterns. So that goes a long way. Next thing is that you need good customer service. You need good understanding. So anything you do social, it could be some sort of like Toastmasters, for example. Anything social really helps go a long way because you need to present a lot. Your ideas are really technical, and people that are non-technical don't care or don't understand and don't have the patience for it.
Being able to communicate a complex idea.
Yes.
Really clearly. Yeah.
So something social that improves your communication skills, that type of hobby. Toastmasters being a good example. And then the second one, something with patterns like Sudoku, because you need to see patterns quick.
Right. Yeah. If we would go in a time machine right now and go back, let's do it twice. Let's go back first before you would choose the background as an electrical engineer.
Yeah.
And then the second time we go back before you choose the SAP. Mm-hmm. And you would have to choose again, but you're not allowed to choose the same path. What would you choose?
Okay.
So the first one.
So instead of picking engineering, I would have picked,
not necessarily engineering, but electrical engineering.
Oh, okay.
Because I think,
I would have
engineering, it's so wide, right?
I would have picked computer science.
Computer science, yeah.
Yeah, I would have picked computer science instead.
Why?
Because I like algorithms. I think you become better at business processes, better at designing even software, better at designing kind of instructions.
Right.
So people think computer science is actually programming, but programming is not computer science. Actually, computer science is the science behind algorithms.
Yeah.
So that is what I would like to do instead. Instead of SAP, if I had to pick again, I would have picked. I wish actually I did this better. I would have picked the utilities industry market analyst.
Okay.
Because anything with market, I understand the market value is something where it goes up and down. I think that's kind of cool information to have.
Yeah.
In the economies today, and especially the electrical business, there's very few people that get involved in that market.
Yeah.
People go to the stock market.
Yeah.
But it's so competitive and it's so dynamic and it's too much to learn and it's hard to evolve. But utilities industry, once you learn one utilities, you know them all worldwide and you know like the basics, how they work, how you trade electricity.
Yeah. And
they follow very cool patterns and it deals with human habits. Of consuming power. And I think that's really powerful. And the thing is that when I was at the opportunity to work there was a huge generation from the baby boomers that were all retiring. And they had complete control of the senior positions. And now today in 2015, my peers that went into this career have gone up the corporate ladder so quickly because all these baby boomers retired and there was such a gap for senior positions, so many of them, that the people got pushed up the ladder very fast.
Yeah.
So within 7 years, a lot of my my peers from university got promoted to being managers of entire departments, which is very interesting, very unheard of in other career paths.
Wow.
Yeah.
So if the listeners, so do you have a Twitter handle or a blog? If people want to reach you, like if you want to be reached?
Yeah. I don't have a blog, active blog at this moment. Twitter, I have Twitter. I haven't used it, but I'm going to start using it more because I know the value of it. So let's say Twitter. You can reach me on Twitter.
Yeah, I will put your Twitter handle in the show notes. And the last questions, if the listeners are interested to know more about this career path or about how you did something in this career path, would you agree to be in a webinar?
Yeah, I would agree to do that. I've gone around to different universities in Canada and taught them about SAP, and I used to recruit for IBM, where I went to different universities around Canada. And when you recruit, nobody knows SAP consulting. So you first need to teach them what it is, convince them to apply for this, and then convince them to take SAP consulting over any other job they get offered.
Right.
So that was, I have some experience with that. So I would love to do that again. That was
awesome.
a grateful experience. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Then, Vlad, thanks a million.
Thank you, Kellen.
It was a pleasure. I'm convinced that all the listeners will learn a lot. I think you are quite wise and really smart, and you have a lot of drive.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Okay.
For all of you listeners, please leave a review. Please tell me if you liked Vlad. Please tell me if you want to see Vlad live answering more questions. And please tell me if you're interested in another type of job. Which job? Which job are you interested to find more? Thank you. I really hope you enjoyed it. I really hope that this episode reached to someone that was really curious about SAP and didn't know how it worked. Okay, bye-bye. So, boys and girls, if you want to learn what steps Vlad took to get the best international projects, or if you want his recommendation and tips for the fastest way to become the CEO of a company, or how to create and seize opportunity, please visit 99careeroptions.com/6 and sign up for the webinar so you can ask whatever questions you might have yourself. Yes, you'll be the interviewer instead of me. Before you leave, it will mean the world for me if you can leave a review and share my work with people that would find it useful. Maybe it is a brother, a sister, a friend or a niece, someone choosing a career path. Thank you so much for listening, guys. You are awesome. Don't forget that you can be whatever you want to be as long as you know your options. You are the reason and hopefully the support for these interviews, so please send me feedback and advice if you want me to change something, add some questions in my interviews, or interview someone with a particular job that you are interested in. See you later.